Mike Grimm, play-by-play voice for Golden Gophers football and basketball. And the Gophers basketball team hooks North Texas this evening. That one's at Williams Arena. The 2-0 basketball team takes on North Texas tonight. That's 7 o'clock. And PJ's team is on its second bye. So no Gophers football this weekend. And Mike Grimm joins us now in the 651 Carpets Plus studios. It's 7 o'clok tonight.
Yes,
correct?
7 o'clock. Yeah. Al and I will take care at 6:30.
Sweet.
And I think it's on Twin Cities News Talk, it sounds like.
Excellent.
Yeah.
AM 1130. What pertinent things emerged from PJ Fleck's show yesterday for those who may have missed it off that loss to Rutgers?
Yeah. Well, the first thing was PJ wasn't on it. We had Dragan Kesic and Mark Crawford, the punter and the kicker. Mm-hmm. Very entertaining fellows. And so nothing major came out of that. Usually the standard operating procedure for PJ is on a bye week. He's probably out of town recruiting.
Yeah.
Might be doing some practices. I don't know. We don't see him.
Yeah.
Doesn't
surprise us. And when Nordo at the end of 9 to noon yesterday from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, he said, the PJ Fleck show is next. And I have stuff to do there from noon to like 1:30. So I didn't get a chance to catch the show, but both of us were surprised. There was a show, but it's not surprising that PJ gets some R&R right now.
Yeah, for sure. And it could be that he was, I don't know if he was out of town. I know the last bye week and normal bye weeks, all those coaches at one point or another will go make high school visits around the country. And, in today's day and age, you're not only just making visits to kids that you're trying to get, but you're making maintenance visits to make sure the kids that are verbally committed are going to stay with you.
Right.
I think the last visit, the Gophers have a high school quarterback out of California committed. For the last bye week, I should say, PJ flew out and watched him play a game because...
Happen to know what school?
Laguna Beach is his hometown, so someplace there. Yeah. He's throwing for a bunch of yards.
With Southern California, and I'm sure you know this, when you get down Laguna Beach, Mater Dei, the schools down by the beaches, they put out some really, really nice players.
Well, you think about the proximity that those California schools from the Big Ten, USC, UCLA, have to high-end recruits, right? They jump in the car and... well, for most places would be a 10-minute drive is an hour, but they can hop in the car. They don't need to fly across the country to in one game. They might have 7 or 8 or 10 or 20 recruit. I had last week Aiden Gooseby, the Gopher starting safety, who injured his hamstring against Rutgers last week, and I had him on my podcast. And he's from Florida, Lehigh Acres, Florida, and that's also high-level football.
Is that Dade County?
Good question. I'm not sure.
The Dade County kids can run.
All of them are just so good. So I asked him, what was it like playing high school football? And he just started rattling off guys on his team. Yeah, we had a guy went to Alabama, guy went to Wisconsin, guy went to Virginia. I'm up here. Just on his team.
Right.
I'm like, so on a given night, there might be 12 Division I players are going against, right?
Well, I like how you laid out 1 and 1A with PJ, just assuming or like what he may be doing during the second bye. And it's going to high schools and recruiting. Then the 1A is the maintenance. With the commits and the verbals and things like that. I would contend in 2024, the 1B is maintaining those within your own covenant.
Yes.
Where things slow down a little bit. And that's just a reality with the transfer portal and NIL and just everything that's changed. And the reason I bring that up is they're strays. So they're flying all over the place. It's like, Nick Saban, I think it was pretty clear, if you read between the lines, that he's like, well, I ain't dealing with this.
Yes.
So
I think Jay Wright at Villanova, same thing.
Great call there. Right. But if you look online and follow college football stuff like you do, there's just complaints or little things all over the place every single day from these coaches about concerns about somebody leaving or somebody left or the maintaining or the maintenance from recruiting from within. It's in essence, you've recruited them, you got them. Now there's a little baby problem or something, and you have to re-recruit while they're in the covenant to stay.
I think you're right, and I wonder what the staying power is going to be for some of these coaches. Like if you're Saban or Jay Wright or even Coach K, I think probably would have stayed a little longer, but it's just a different world. So how long can a coach do the grind at the college level. Because now it's not only just that. So you've got 100 guys on your current roster, and there might be some guys on that team where you look, right, and as you're maintaining and managing your roster, where you're like, he probably is not going to contribute.
Yeah.
So that's what the portal's for. Portal is for. We'll find him a school. We have connections. Hey, we think this kid would be great here. And they've done that. And then there's other kids that still want to fight for a job, and that's fine. And then you get up toward the top end of the roster, and not only do you have kids who are hearing from other schools or representatives of other schools saying, hey, there's an open running back spot here, or hey, a quarterback spot there, which would be one thing. Now you're trying to say, hey, stay here, we're this and that. Now it's they might pay $700,000.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting here at Minnesota or any other place and saying, well, we already have most of our money committed to most of you guys. Where are we gonna just go dig up that to keep this guy? And it's, in essence, as you follow the NFL, right? You got guys signing 5-year contracts, 6-year contracts, 3-year contracts. Now they can be cut at any time. I get it. But imagine if the Vikings, at the end of every year, every player on the roster could just go.
Yeah.
Just be a free agent every year. That's what PJ Fleck and Kirk Ferentz and Luke Fickell and Matt Rule, all these guys that Minnesota's trying to beat in recruiting. That's what all these guys are dealing with. And so you lose a few guys. Now what do you do? Okay, now we got to go find a few guys. And it's PJ calls it speed dating because it happens fast.
Right.
Some kid jumps in the portal. You need a left tackle. A kid jumps in the portal, and you might have 2 days to figure out if it works.
Right.
And if not, he's off to somewhere else, and boom.
But see,
how long can you keep it going?
The common thread word here is distraction. I mean, because it's like you don't know, coaches don't know where this is coming from. So it's like you could be just rolling along, mediocre, good, bad, or whatever. Then all of a sudden you got, hey, coach, we need to talk, or what? Just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And distraction is the ultimate equalizer. How much, the Rutgers loss, how much did that one catch you off guard?
A little bit. I thought, particularly once word leaked out that their really good running back, Kyle Monangai, who's an excellent runner, one of the top in the Big Ten, and really one of the top in the country. He was number 2 running back in the Big Ten, I think number 11 rushing yards per game in the NCAA generally. So he's out, and they only had one other running back that had even had a carry that was healthy because their third stringer also was out for the year. Now, Monangai is likely back. That was a concussion-related symptom, and the bye week wasn't enough to get him ready. So I'm guessing he'll play again.
Yep.
So they're a 6.5-point favorite, talking about the Gophers and the other team's best players out. I felt pretty good about that game, and it was just something, you just have games like that where just nothing clicked right. All of a sudden, Rutgers somehow in that bye week, they went from they weren't a very good defensive team. Now they had some injuries, but I don't chalk it all up to that. They were giving up chunks and chunks of yards. And the Gophers really at times struggled moving the ball. I haven't, with the bye week, like I said, everyone's out doing stuff, so it's hard to really get any info per se this week. But I think we generally, Daryl and I concurred that it looked like Darius Taylor maybe wasn't 100%. He didn't have the normal pop. He did have a 19-yard touchdown run. So all of that, a little surprising with the loss. But to me, that's college sports, right? I mean, you look every week, there's these weird outcomes. And I don't think this was just some tremendous upset. It wasn't like upset of the century or anything. I mean, Rutgers is a pretty good team, and they have recruited at a high level. Talent-wise, they're right in the thick of things in the pack where I would consider Minnesota in the middle tier of that Big Ten right now, trying to fight your way up. That's a good backdrop for what I'm about to say. The disappointment to me in that loss is without divisions now, without the West, the East, or whatever you want to call it, and with an 18-team Big Ten, the top 2 teams make the Big Ten championship. So this year, as it moved along and the Gophers lost their first 2 games in the Big Ten, there is really not much hope that you're going to make the Big Ten championship game, right, without divisions. So now what you're playing for, you're playing to try to get to Florida, January 1st. There's 2 Big Ten Florida games, right, if you're Minnesota. And
that's awesome.
If they win, because there's nothing else there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's no Big Ten championship game looming. That's the one thing that divisions did. And the NFL's brilliant at this. They have 4 teams in each division, so you can be in the race right up to the end.
Right.
One of the things without divisions is more than half the league currently probably there's really only 4 teams maybe that can make the Big Ten championship. So everyone's now just jostling for bowl position, hoping to get to Florida on January 1st to play in Tampa or Orlando. There's 4 teams likely, PA, to make the 12-team playoff out of the Big Ten. So that means teams 5 and 6 are likely Florida bound. If Minnesota wins over Rutgers, they win their 7th game. They're 5th.
Well, if you get the next 2,
you get, and that will help. But, but you had a chance. You had a chance. You're a 6.5-point favorite.
Yes.
Their best player's gone. You get to 7 wins. Iowa lost to UCLA in an upset the night before. They stuck now at 6.
Damn.
Illinois sitting at 6. Wisconsin, Nebraska hanging at 5.
Yeah.
Maryland sitting at 5. You really had a separator there if you win it. Now you're just stuck with the rest of them, hoping to upset Penn State and go win the Axe, which would be great. And I mean, I'm not saying you can't get to Florida now if you're Minnesota. You certainly can.
Yeah.
And there's still things to play for. That Penn State game looming there, you'd play spoiler in that. That'd be a heck of a day at the stadium, right? But there was the disappointing part is there was an opportunity lost that you could separate yourself and feel pretty good about going to a good destination, and still can, but man, it's a step sideways at best now with that loss.
Grimm. Basketball to close. What do you like about Dawson Garcia's game?
Everything. And he has gotten, like, he was really good when he got here a couple years ago, fought through some injuries, was putting up good numbers. The team didn't have great success. Spencer Tollickson, my former colleague, and I used to talk about this a lot. We would see guys and say, God, that guy's great. I wonder how good he'll be in the NBA. And then it was always surprising that, gosh, he ended up in Europe. And then all of a sudden I'm thumbing through. I'm not a diehard NBA guy. I'm a casual NBA guy. I'll be thumbing through TNT, Kevin Harlan and companies on. I'm like, that guy from wherever's made it? Like, how'd he make it? And somebody else is playing in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not an evaluator, but I do think watching Dawson, he's 6'11", he can run.
Yeah.
He can shoot
the 3.
He can post up. And I don't, when I say this, I don't want it to be taken as a knock. He's a finesse player.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you look and it's like 22 and 12. Like when you think of finesse, I think he's not a guy that wants to go fight or push or get a rebound. He can rebound because he's smart. He angles, but he is finesse and that he can go by you. He has a great floater. So I think his game probably translates, and you know better than I, because I know you're more in tune to the NBA. It seems to me now with how they are working salary caps and different things. So he's on the older end of getting drafted because I think he's in year 5 now. Yeah. And it seems NBA people want to draft 19-year-old one and dones because they have all that upside. But I do think now, don't you think on some benches, if you're going to make a rookie minimum, it might be, hey, let's go get a 24-year-old kid who's been through the battles, who's 6'11", who can shoot. So I think there's a place in the NBA for him. I really do.
There's room in the NBA for those on the Evan Eschmeyer plan.
Yes.
And that's what he
just settles memorial plan.
And props to Evan Eschmeyer, who created the Evan Eschmeyer plan of being there for like 5, 6, 7 years at Northwestern.
Yes.
Before COVID.
Yeah, before COVID. And Settles, I think, had 6 years, and that was uncommon in Ottawa. Parker Fox is on 8.
That's a great call. I know, it's unbelievable.
So I looked this up yesterday, and I'm not Parker's awesome. You know that. I love listening when he comes in with you guys.
He's great.
I believe I'm correct in this. I looked it up. Trae Young, great NBA player. Oklahoma. He's in year 7 in the NBA. He's made $146 million.
Oh, good for him.
He and Parker graduated from high school the same year.
That's so interesting.
Crazy,
you say that. There's the right tackle for the Tennessee Titans. His first name's Leroy. I can't remember his last name. He's in his 2nd full year, and he's going to be 27 before the year's all over. Well, I mean, you think like Sam Darnold came in 2018. He's like 26 or 27.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's in like his 7th year or whatever. It's the same
Leroy
thing.
Watson, the 4th.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, right. Lastly, of the newbies, all right, because there are a lot of newbies here. Which ones through 2? I mean, we have Earl Roberts in Omaha, North Texas tonight, Box on lead vocals. Which player or players are sticking out to you?
Well, I think Brennan Rigsby, who's a transfer from Oregon, he was good in the exhibition games, especially. Was just a guy, I would say, in the opener, and then I think had a bigger impact against Omaha. I'm excited for him. He can run, he can shoot, he can dunk. Femi Odikali is a transfer. He's been around. He's at New Mexico State. He was at Seton Hall. He was at Pitt. speaking of the new age of college athletics, every time I'm filling out my roster boards, guys, like Illinois last year had like 3 or 4 guys that were at their third or fourth school.
Yeah.
Illinois was their third or fourth school. So this, Dawson's at his third school.
It's unbelievable.
So, and football's the same way. But he's a guy that looks like he can defend. I think he'll fit into the Big Ten really well. Isaac Awesome is the true freshman from Cherry. Now, Mike Mitchell got hurt. Yeah. He's out for probably 2 to 4 weeks, it sounds like, what Ben said yesterday. So I think that'll give Isaac an opportunity. It'll give Odekali an opportunity for some more minutes. Rigsby, as they'll kind of split it up. Caden Betts is hurt. Now, Dawson, Ben yesterday said had a groin injury, be a game-time decision. Which makes tonight interesting. I'm going to sidetrack your question for a second. Tonight's interesting. North Texas is pretty good. I mean, they're a couple years removed from winning the NIT.
73rd in the country.
Yeah, they're kind of, so that's a sneaky, hard game. And if all of a sudden you're going in it shorthanded, missing 3 or 4 of your top 8 or 9, that's a tough loss. It's a quad 3 loss if you can't win it. And that's, if you want to be an NCAA tournament team, you want to avoid those kind of losses. Yale comes to town Saturday. I think and they gave Purdue ranked 14th, all they wanted earlier in the week. So these 2 games this week, particularly if the Gophers are missing a Garcia or missing, Frank Mitchell, there's some thought that he might give it a go tonight. He has not played yet. He's got a shoulder injury. He's their best rebounder, leading rebounder in the country, returning from last year. He was 4th in the country last year, and so he's a top. So that's a guy to watch, too, but we haven't seen him yet. He got injured in the Hamlin exhibition game, so we haven't seen him in real action. So I think these are 2 important games, sneaky important, because you want to avoid those quad 3 kind of losses. A home loss to the 78th ranked team or the 120th ranked team is going to be a red mark on a resume if you fancy yourself a tournament team. So
appreciate you, my brother.
Always fun to stop in. Thank you.
Let's chat again soon, maybe next week. All right.
Sounds great. You got it.
Mike Grimm, Fox, play-by-play voice for Gophers football and basketball. Here comes Nordo with the cash thing.
The Fan, along with 2 men in a junk truck, want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Keyword is money at KFAN.com. You might win $1,000 if you enter the keyword money at KFAN.com.
Vikes Bites.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is time for Vikes Bites, which is presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You just heard Maroon and Gold Gophers Vox. Clearwater-based Thousand Hills. They're proud sponsors of Gopher Athletics. And we appreciate Thousand Hills bringing you Vikes Bites. We appreciate the coordinators of your Minnesota Vikings, that being Brian Flores for the defense, Wes Phillips on the offense, and Matt Daniels with the special teams, for taking the time every week to address the media. So we're going to do some coach speak this morning. And I'm going to start with Brian Flores. Here he is when asked about a certain Vikings cornerback.
Brian, it seems like Shaq Griffin, especially on Sunday, was mostly in dime situations, and the role's been a little smaller the last couple of weeks. What's led to the change there with his role?
We didn't really play a lot of plays the other day, so a lot of guys' numbers were down. Shaq's done a great job for us. In coverage, he's tackled well. Communication's been good. But that was last week was kind of a different game in that, our offense kind of held time of possession for, a long time. So Jacksonville didn't really get that many snaps. And then, personnel-wise, they were in some bigger groupings for a lot of the game. So it was a little bit different game. Most times you get, a good dose of 11 personnel, 3 receivers, 1 tight end in the back. I know you guys know that. And that allows you to, get more DBs in. They played a lot of 12. So it was just a little different ball game. Plus,
that's Brian Flores, specifically on Shaq Griffin. It was a conversation topic yesterday at TCO that did ultimately carry in to Mr. Flores' presser. Is it just as simple as Shaq Griffin, there weren't a lot of plays? It was a massive time of possession disparity with the Vikings offense dominating, but it has been something over the last couple of games in particular, and maybe Byron Murphy Jr. has a say in this as well. 3 picks in 3 games, 3 picks in a row. Your thoughts on Shaq Griffin getting fewer snaps, what that means moving forward?
30 snaps the last 2 games is eye-opening, and I really like how Brian Flores handled that. Antithetical to a gripping Doug Peterson, who indeed may be circling the proverbial drain.
Yeah.
Because Brian explained something that was complicated. I'm telling you right now, 98.7% of listeners, if I were to say 12 personnel, they're not going to know what it means. And that's how coaches speak. All right. So Brian, in talking to the media, he was explaining something that was difficult. And he's like, and I know you guys I'm sure you guys know what that means. There are one of two ways to do it. And the way Brian did was, I know you guys know what that means. Because he's probably explained certain things before, compared to Circle the Drain guy, who started to explain something on an interception, and he started it by saying, Doug Peterson, Jags, started it by saying that, paraphrasing, you guys wouldn't have a chance to understand what went into that interception, or that play, so I'm not even going to explain it.
Yeah.
So that's, just the difference between two individuals and an approach to be taken no matter what your lot in life is.
Ultimately, you either respect people or in general you do not. And that plays into maybe how you address those things. And Flores did it nicely. To the offense, we'll jump back to Flores momentarily, but Wes Phillips asked about turnovers by our guy, Sam Darnold.
Think about Sam's performance the past 2 weeks when you think about the turnovers and balance it with the other things that he's done over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, it is a balance, and sometimes, the turnovers are a concern, certainly. It's not something we brush over. Everyone will tell you across the league, each one has its own story, and that's 100% true. And we try to coach them on each individual one, whether it's decision, whether it's feet and eyes, and location, all those types of things, or whether it's sometimes out of your control, sometimes other people around you can do a better job. There's times where a quarterback doesn't get to finish his arm on the throw, and the ball usually doesn't go where he intends it to go. So there's a lot of factors there, but we're just going to keep coaching and keep trying to make sure that we're getting to the plays that we're rock solid on what the intent is from our standpoint, from Kevin's standpoint when he calls the play, so that Sam is on the same page, and hopefully we can set it up in a way that we get the guys open for him.
Do you feel that this will be a trend moving forward? And part of our discussions yesterday, having Kevin O'Connell on site at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, but also kind of talking about how he handled and really was so quick to offer extreme confidence in the QB, the way he handled it in the presser immediately following the game. That moving forward, he can't just sit up there and it's a 6-second answer. The turnovers are absolutely awful. They suck, and it's a complete disaster, and we have to fix it and then move on. There's going to be that element of coaching him out of it. We will kind of allude to maybe some footwork and various things. We will continue to mention how many different variables there may or may not be in any situation in which a turnover takes place on the field. I do feel like in some ways there's a delicate dance, PA, in how they address a situation in which, in fairness, we've seen 5 picks the last 2 games. 4 of the 5, I believe, were in situations in which we were trying to feed number 18.
Yeah.
And that has to stop, but Sam is still the man on the fan. I think it's a delicate dance with these guys.
Yeah, you're right. Now, Kevin O'Connell is incapable of a 6-second answer. Okay, and I say that... I
think it's physically impossible, yes.
I say that with respect and admiration and appreciation. Because I've done a lot of these interviews for quite some time, and Kevin's he's different than everybody else when it comes to explaining why conflict is transpiring or things have not gone well, or on the other side of it, the team is 7-2, explaining things in a way where it doesn't make your defense sound like the 85 Bears.
Do you remember when you had your first, I think it was you and Charch at the Combine 2022. Do you remember that interview?
Yeah, I obsessed over 13 fake handoffs on a jet sweep to Van Jefferson. They never gave it to him once, but they got Kendricks and Harrison Smith to bite that way every single time. So, of course, they used that to score the other way with Sony Michel. Next.
But a certain person and I were sitting around with our stopwatch coach, and we were timing Kevin O'Connell's answers. And it was basically like, hey, which way to the elevator? You're going to get a minute 5. Hey, what do you think about mugging the A-gap with this particular defense? How do you attack it offensively? You get a minute 8.
Right.
It was almost just plug and play, pull the string. You're getting 60-some seconds of thought from the coach, and it really hasn't changed 3 years later.
That's the key. It hasn't changed because the majority of them do.
Yeah, that's true.
When it's negative, they change. When it's super good, they become arrogant. He's been the same since that first conversation. First thing I said to him was, good to meet you. You know, that you guys played on Tuesday, and then you came here on a Sunday, and I went back and counted it. You faked the jet sweep to Van Jefferson 11 times. And I mean, didn't give it to him one time, and every time you used Sony Michel the other way off tackle, you got exactly what you wanted, and you got Eric Kendricks and Harrison Smith to be exactly where you wanted. Here we go, Paul! And he was just staring at me like, what am I getting into here with this 3-chin to Vox? But that was my first relationship with him.
That's been a common reaction over the course of time.
Indeed. That was my first time meeting him, and I really, really enjoy his company. Now, after further review on the Darnold interceptions over the weekend, I mean, with all due respect, I'm going to put the second one on Justin Jefferson.
Oh my gosh!
Now that in no way and what
the one back of the end zone you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
That in no way is excusing some inadequacy that is transpiring with these turnovers. All right. However, Wes Phillips is the one that triggered me to think about this when he said, as they say around the league, every interception, every turnover has a story. Well, he's right, because they're like in this situation, well, hey, this guy hadn't done this in 3 months, and there he is, right next to the quarterback who threw it away.
Yeah.
Or this guy had dropped 17 consecutive passes right to his hands. We heard Bursich for a 15th time say that's why receivers become DBs, because they can't catch.
I always love that one.
And they all have their own story. Well, the story, I'm not sure the story behind that is exactly the way I'm about ready to depict it. I just can't believe that there was a play drawn that had Justin Jefferson running right next to Brandon Powell. Okay, I just can't. So Darnold, so when you watch these things back, trying to get the right answer and not just be a blowhard, you can tell that Darnold threw it in a place where he thought Jefferson was going to run straight ahead. So there's JJ back line, right next to Brandon Powell, right next to one of his teammates. And the quarterback throws it to a spot where it looks like 18's going to run straight ahead. And if he had run straight ahead, it would have been a touchdown. But it wasn't. It was an interception, and Sam gets the heat, I guess.
You know, I saw a bit, and I've heard the idea on the first interception that they felt like that Jefferson needed to fight his way through that contact a bit more.
No chance.
It was a situation in which a flag could have been thrown for the hold. There was the hook around the back, certainly.
There was.
But the idea of fighting through that a bit more, not necessarily relying or assuming that a flag might be thrown.
I don't think he saw it coming.
That deflection.
I don't think he saw it coming. You know, so therefore, if you don't see it coming, it's kind of a tough reaction, like when you get smacked.
That he didn't see the ball.
No, that he didn't see the guy coming.
I see.
Yeah, well, he saw the guy coming because that's how football goes. But I don't think he thought the guy was going to run into him and stop him in the route. I thought that should have been a penalty. It wasn't a big deal.
Vikes Bites to the special teams. How about we hear from Matt Daniels, special teams coordinator, as he summarizes things from Sunday.
Another good week, great week. You know, you get 2 new specialists in on Wednesday, and for those guys to go out and execute it the way that they did on Sunday, it just says a lot about the group. Says a lot about the team overall. Because, you know, at the end of the day, man, it's really, really hard to win in this league. And it's even harder to win on the road. And this team that we have is a special group, resilient group, just freaking gritty as ever. And, you know, I love coaching them, love being in the building with them day to day. You know, we just continue to find ways to win. I think, you know, Brian Osmore did an unbelievable job of kind of talking to the group, you know, as a leader of of our ST unit about the, you know, roads really being more so about journeys and not destinations, and really spoke highly about Parker Romo and the journey that he's took to get to where he's at.
How about that for a second? Brian Asamoah. So he has an opportunity as a rookie. He's making plays. He's running around like a missile, completely disappears yesterday. And Ivan Pace Jr., the undrafted rookie, comes in and takes his lunch money. And you still haven't seen much of him this year. I was not aware that Asamoah, in some ways, was this galvanizing force and this philosopher in the locker room. That, of all things, and we can get to the kicker. I got some more audio on Parker Romo coming from Mr. Daniels. But I was not aware that he was the guy that everybody in the middle, here we go, this is our time. It was kind of nice. I haven't seen or heard much from Asamoah since his rookie season. It was kind of cool to hear him part of the mix. But of course, Parker Romo, the A topic, Mr. McQuaid, snapping it back to Mr. Wright, the holder, and Parker Romo going 4 of 4.
The O'Connell referenced in his post-game chat a hold for Ryan Wright that was otherworldly. He's right. He wasn't lying. I think it was the second field goal. I mean, McQuaid hasn't snapped since 2023. Wasn't a great snap, and it came back fast. It was a fastball. And Ryan Wright did an amazing job to get that thing down, get the laces in the right spot, so the new kicker could bang through a kick in a game where all of your points are going to come from main man's right foot. So Ryan Wright, that's about as good as I've ever seen him do something like that. Not that we have many bad snaps around here. With Asamoah, I'm glad Matt Daniels did that. It's the first time, unless I've missed it, it's the first time from any coach that I've really heard somebody go down the road like that with Brian Asamoah. So good for Brian being a leader and a galvanizing force, and good for Matt sharing it publicly.
Vikes Bites! Brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. I got some more audio for you. Let's jump back to Flores talking about Josh Metellus.
So you say everybody studies everything, but how much was he actually doing that before Cashman's injury? And
playing linebacker, I believe.
See him grow in that role when
he actually did quite a bit of it last year. So he's, not, totally new to some of those roles. I would say, not a light bulb went off, but he's really, he's playing like a linebacker. Seeing making run reads and, setting edges when that's the case, and taking on blockers and taking on guards, and, dealing with pullers, and, seeing flash blocks, as we call them. He's really doing a nice job there. And one play he's playing linebacker, the next play is a nickel. I'm sure it's hard to target him offensively. Next play he's playing safety, so we try to move him around as much as we can. I thought he had some really good blitzes the other day too. I know he was upset about not getting there, but he keeps blitzing like that. He'll get there eventually. So
how about that? Continuing, I mean, we're marveling at Blake Cashman being back and Cam Bynum. I mean, if there is a spot in Canton for big play celebrations, Cam Bynum should be a part of that someday.
Yeah, but they're unbelievable.
They're insane.
And if you can't do that unless you're good. Because like if you're dropping passes, if you're making mistake after mistake week after week, then all of a sudden you get an interception, you get to run down to the camera, wave everybody down there. It holds no water,
right,
at least in my estimation, because people be like, hey, why don't you stop worrying about, whatever next Dora the Explorer running away from Swiper celebration you're going to do, and to start focusing on A, B, and C. But Cam comes through, so therefore it meshes.
Well, and Flores was asked about the celebrations, and he's like, I have no say in that. I focus on some other things. And that's I leave that to them.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It popped in my head. If we were struggling and Zimmer was the coach, could you picture how he would handle the idea that specifically on Fridays, you know what? Cam Bynum gets all of his work done. And then on Fridays, he practices these elite celebrations.
Yep.
Could you picture the former head coach handling whatever, Freaky Friday or whatever they call it? and he sees that happening inside his facility. Completely different universe. That's all I'm saying.
To some, it's a Wednesday. To others, it's a Wednesday.
Fat Cat's getting slaughtered. But of all the things talk about, Metellus is still the Swiss Army knife.
Yep. Insiders tell me, or those who would know and know how to watch film and stuff, that with Cashman's return, the greatest beneficiary was Joshua Metellus.
Okay.
So it's, and Flores kind of laid it out. I didn't realize he played all of those snaps because I'm just so wound up on watching back the offensive stuff now because of Darnold and Jefferson and Addison and free three and 87's back and 84's wide open with the gotchas. There's just so much to watch.
Free three.
Offensively, but was told yesterday before I left with Cashie's return, Joshua Metellus played absolutely his best game of the season. So good for young Joshua.
And it's funny, I would have said that it best impacted Ivan Pace or even Andrew Van Ginkel.
Yep.
And so those
I would have said Gink.
Yeah, and those would have been the names that I gravitated towards. But Metellus, again, he's doing so much all the time.
Yeah.
That he's obviously allowing some of these other guys to splash.
But I'm not trying to be an elite Vic Fangio mind here. But again, I'm just not watching as much with the Minnesota Vikings defense because it's been so good this year. And defensive film is harder to watch unless you're getting beat over the top. And if you're getting beat over the top, you probably don't want to watch it. But with the offense, it's like, okay, Zaire Franklin, why? Okay, back center of the end zone, 4 and 18 are next to each other. Oh, okay, 18, maybe should have done this. Got it. Free three, 87 back in the mix. Oliver on the gotchas. Oh, Sherfield Sr., wide open on a gotcha. What about Brandon Powell? He's in the game before Jalen Naylor. Oh, there's Naylor on a touchdown. Cam Robinson, lights out against Indianapolis, regressed against his former team. My man now has 4 penalties this year. Christian Darrisaw had 4 penalties in, I think, 7 games. So what happened there? Cam runs into the bench, sticks Darnell Savage. Okay, well, I mean, no flags, but it was a hard hit. That if
you got him.
You do it on somebody's sideline. The kids don't like that. But like, there were 2 people who helped Cam up.
Yeah, because they love him.
And I had to rewatch that a few times, being like, "What are we doing here? And why do you hate Darnell? I mean, seriously, why hate Darnell?" So there's just so much to watch offensively with this team.
That's Vikes Bites. Actually, I'm going to save a couple of these maybe around the corner during News to Nord. I can play them, although we'll recap the Wolves and talk about some other news nugs. But thank you. Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed, grass-fed beef.
News to Nord, courtesy of Canterbury Park and CanterburyPark.com, indeed around the corner. Followed by Tennessee Titans Vox Mike Keith, who has done play-by-play for the Tennessee Titans. He's worked with the radio network since the inception of the team, and he's done play-by-play for like 25, 26 years. So he's going to be joining us about 11:03 for an adversarial update. That's followed by one of our very favorites, Skull Stories for Kids, Nordo on lead vocals there. And that all takes place here at FM 100.3 KFAN.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is News Due Nord, brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com for all event details. Thank you, Canterbury. Thank you, Minnesota Timberwolves, for playing back-to-back so we don't have to wait long, hopefully, to watch a Wolves victory and watch something that also, hopefully, is nothing like what we saw last night. Brutal beatdown and at the hands of the Blazers last night. Again, Wolves at the Blazers for the second of a back-to-back, so you'll get to watch them again late tonight. But Chris Finch, you'll hear the entire replay of the conversation later in the final hour. But here he is kind of summarizing last night's loss.
For us, it was, again, too many turnovers to start the game in the first quarter. It's been a trend a little bit in this early season. Kind of a lot of carelessness with the ball. It leads to a lot of easy offense for your opponent. When your opponent starts the game with easy offense, it gives them a confidence. They see things go in, they get out and run, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the night.
Yeah, tough game for Julius Randle. Tough game, in fact, for the entire team. You mentioned the turnovers. I think this is the third straight game where the team's had 20 or more turnovers in a game. So a little bit lackadaisical. They get another shot at it tonight, but you'll get to hear from Chris Finch during the final hour. And
with Finchy, about because you'll hear it all coming up soon, and I really enjoyed the chat. Very appreciative and grateful that he would do it that early in Portland. But he said our stars need to play better. Our stars need to play better. He's talking about Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. Julius Randle's defense last night is his sneakers might as well have been in cement. I mean, there were so many times, and I stopped watching early in the fourth quarter. It was just boring. And it's just off pick and rolls or, a team feigning picks. Like, here we come with that big pick. I don't know, man. He just didn't seem into it last night, with all due respect. And maybe we're going to get that with Julius Randle because his across-the-board game is high of high end. But they should come out tonight with their hair on fire, and they should beat them tonight.
Hey, check this out. This courtesy of Adam Schefter of ESPN. He is reporting Anthony Richardson started just 10 NFL games before being benched, but now returns and will be the starter for the rest of the season. The Colts are adamant they have not given up on him. Coach Shane Steichen noted today he's seen Richardson make strides over the last couple of weeks. Whether it was, kind of what we were talking about with Sam Darnold, if J.J. McCarthy had been healthy, is that a conversation they're having inside the doors in light of recent turnovers and all of those things? But then from the other side of it is you go all in with Anthony Richardson right out of the gates, the injury issues that he sustains last year, and then the up and down start to this season. A lot of times, and statistically it's been the case, when they make this sort of decision, as in benching Anthony, they rarely go back. And I guess it just took a couple of instances with Flacco, and I don't necessarily believe that's even an indictment on Flacco, but it feels like as soon as they benched him, they started thinking about how can we potentially not completely waste this asset? How can we get him back into the mix sooner than later? A couple of weeks later, he's apparently making strides, and he's the starter again.
Yeah, I mean, personally speaking, and, I'm not trying to be an elite Ted Marcher Broad up or Earl Moral Mind, but I never would have benched him in the first place. I mean, because you've built your entire offense around his legs. And your biggest threat is him breaking the pocket and finding somebody uncovered down the field.
And it's made Jonathan Taylor the threat that he has been in moments this year too.
There you go. Right, for sure, because you gotta handle the edges and as they say in the business, to contain with the quarterback and the running back. And that's very, very difficult. That's why, Charch and I didn't argue on Friday, but Kyler Murray caught a stray, and I'm like, well, you're just flat wrong. I mean, Kyler Murray's having the best season he's ever had in his life.
He's played really well this year.
It's just not of the fantasy football variety that's going to appease everybody's palate.
Yeah, he's getting the tight end involved, and he's doing it with his legs in some cases. James Conner's having a great year. Charch is just mad because Marvin Harrison Jr. is up and down. If Marvin Harrison Jr. was doing what Jamar Chase just did on a weekly basis, he'd love Kyler Murray. He's really having the best. He's probably top 5 MVP right now, Paul. He's having one of the best years of his career, Paul.
Right.
And the rookie out of Ohio State, I talked about this all summer, he's going to be one of the best wide receiver prospects we've ever seen in the NFL ever, Paul.
See, I think with Richardson is Steichen, I don't know who took it. I mean, everybody joked about it, including us. When the quarterback tapped out of the game because he was honest about it. I was exhausted. I was tired. I just ran 3 plays in a row, and the last one was 20 some odd yards. I took a hit on it, and I was tired.
Did you see those plays though? In fairness, I mean, we would have been dead.
Right. I mean, but I don't think you should bench somebody because they made the mistake of not knowing how to push the envelope or how to handle that situation.
Right.
There's only one way to handle it. My oblique hurts. And Clete Blakeman's like, well, okay, stop the clock, injury timeout. Yeah, my oblique hurts.
Leave for a play and then go back in.
Yeah, and it's, okay, are we encouraging lying? Well, hurts is subjective. For some people, a 1 is enough to take him out of the game. For other people, you got to get up to a 9 or a 10. But Richardson just didn't know how to handle the situation the right way.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have been benched. Flacco's all done. It just, that's it. That's it for Joey Flacco. With all due respect, he's a Hall of Famer. But when I say he's all done, it's because of what they've put in the time to that offense with that young man. And I mean, you ain't gonna run 62.5% of the plays with Joe Flacco that you want to run with Anthony Richardson.
Right.
And you make a really good Jonathan Taylor point too, because the threat of Richardson off the play action busting out to a flat, and then all of a sudden you're ready for that and all wound up over it, and you run a draw with Taylor. Well, that's 30 yards up the middle.
Yeah, and their O-line isn't as stout as it has been in the past. I know we got to go.
Agreed.
I'm interested at some point, the Flacco Hall of Famer idea. I mean, I know we don't have time to go deep on that, but the one Super Bowl, get it, MVP season, time served.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, you just answered it.
Well, I'm not sold by all those factors. That's what I'm saying.
It's not a bang your fist down situation. It's personal preference. Same thing for me with Eli Manning. I mean, if you're a 2-time Super Bowl MVP, you're in the Hall of Fame.
I think the second Super Bowl gets Eli in the mix. Yeah, absolutely.
Mike Keith is the Vox for the Tennessee Titans. He gives us some adversarial update on the Titans around the corner. It's KFAN.